Hello, everybody. My name is Misha Sharif, and you're watching Decoding Careers, where I talk to professionals about their careers. Today, we have Farha Ahmed, who works as an attorney for the law offices of Damian Waldman, PA, in Florida. Now, here's some information about becoming a lawyer. On average, the salary for a lawyer ranges from about $56,000 to $187,000. Studying to become a lawyer usually includes 4 years of undergraduate study, followed by 3 years of law school. Many law schools, particularly those approved by the ABA, the American Bar Association, also require applicants to take the law school admission test, also known as the LSAT. But in general, it'll probably take about 7 years of schooling. So, Mrs. Ahmed, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I don't know. Thank you for being here. That can be cut out. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and jump right in with the first question, which is, what 3 words best describe your profession?
3 words to best describe the profession. Let's see. I would say analytical, because I'll just describe that. And the reason why I say analytical, because a lot of the profession is based on analyzing the law, making sure a lot of it is about looking at the law, interpreting it, and trying to convince, a judge, and convince the other side, your opponent, of your case. But a lot of that involves analyzing very carefully, looking at all types of case law and, the history of the law and all of types of things, in order to make the best case for your client. So analytical is the first word I would use. The second word I would use is competitive, because especially in what I do in litigation, you're constantly battling another side, even though there's no physical battle. It's a sort of mental, it's a battle of wits almost, and you're trying to convince, again, you're trying to make a case for your client, and so there's always a certain competition, whether it's even if it's not arguing in court, you're arguing in paper, on paper. And so there's always a certain level of competition going on between you and your opponent. So analytical, competitive, and let's see, the third word I would use, detail-oriented. It is very important as a lawyer to focus on details, because that makes a good attorney. There's that saying, the devil is always in the details. Judges are they're always looking at details, and what you write, what you say, you have to focus on the details of a case, because the details can win or lose a case for you. And contracts, everything is based on, it could be, a contract one little detail could help your client, in a contract. And so, or it could hurt your client. And so you want to make sure to put your client in the best position, that you are doing the best job at reviewing documents thoroughly, and making sure that every single provision is checked properly, and is as perfect as it can be. And really, the job of a lawyer is to focus on the details of every document and of every argument. So
Great. So it was competitive, it was detail-oriented, and then the first one was
analytical.
Analytical. There you go. Okay, so going on those, and I know I kind of talked about this a little earlier. What educational background is best for this kind of career?
So the thing about being a lawyer is you can really be have any kind of major. There's no requirement to have a specific major in college. I was a political science major, And a lot of political science majors do end up going to law school, but there's no requirement. You can be a music major and then end up doing law school. So really, there is no requirement. I think what you have to have, like, it's almost like it's not really an education or requirement, but sort of again, an analytical mind. You have to be of that type that likes to analyze and that likes to sort of solve puzzles. And the LSAT, for example, is very much one of those type of standardized tests. It's not sort of just rote memorization. There's an entire section that's about, like, it's kind of like puzzle solving. And so they're trying to, the LSAT, whoever administers it, I can't remember, they're trying to figure out whether you have the ability to solve puzzles, to fit pieces together, to analyze things and figure out, okay, the argument goes from A, B to Z, C to D. And so that's really kind of what you need. Educational background, you don't need a specific one. And obviously you go to law school in order to be a lawyer. In most states, you have to go to an accredited law school. There's a couple states like California that don't require you to attend law school, or that allow you to become a lawyer without going to an ABA accredited law school. But most states do require 3 years of law school.
Okay. Honestly, my image of a lawyer is probably those movies where you have like the lawyer like pacing and they just like slam their hand on the desk and they're like, I have these points, like, and they obviously, because usually the lawyer is like the protagonist and they always end up winning, but they never actually show like the family aspect or like their personal life. So how do you balance your family life with your work life?
So I'm very lucky in that I have found a job where I get to work from home. And actually I work part-time, and it's very rare to find that. But for me, it works really well. So I'm able to balance like my work life and, my personal life. To be honest, a lot of lawyers don't have that because if they work at a big law firm, then they're working really long hours and they don't have much of a work-life balance. A lot of attorneys that own their own practices, they're also working really hard, to make sure that their practice does well. And so, again, it's very hard. And I just found something, I work for like a small law firm, and I work a certain amount of hours, and it's a very rare, actually, and I found it, and I'm that's why I've been with this company now for almost 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah.
That's actually a lot. Well, it's good that you found a really like nice place where like it fits your needs and they fit, well, you fit their needs and they fit your needs. So that's really nice. What are some challenges that come with your profession?
So I think sometimes, again, work-life balance, depending on what kind of job, in that profession, what kind of job you have. Sometimes you don't have that balance, like I said. So I think that is a challenge that a lot of lawyers face. My situation, again, is unique and I don't face that challenge. My challenge more is, I think, sometimes the work itself it gets a little bit like draining, like mentally draining. You're reading a lot of documents, you're reviewing like language that can get a bit redundant, or can get like, you can get bogged down in a lot of like heavy reading and like analyzing, and sometimes it just like mentally can just be exhausting. So that really, I think, is the only, the one other thing I think is like sometimes it takes a lot of preparation. For example, I have an appellate court hearing, so it's an appeal of, you know, the opposing side is appealing one of the lower court's ruling in our favor. So now we have an appeal coming up, and it takes a lot of time and effort to prepare for this. You know, you go in front of the 3 judges and you make an oral argument, and so that's coming up for me in September. But I'm already preparing for it because, you know, it's nerve-wracking to go in front of 3 judges and like, yeah, and you know, make an argument and make sure you're prepared, and you have to be like quick on your feet because they'll ask you questions, so you have to be prepared for every single question. You have to be prepared for the arguments that the other side is going to make, so you have to do a really good job of like thoroughly reviewing every single document in that case, you know, and make sure that you do a good job of presenting your argument. So
Yeah. Going back to the education thing, are there any special certificates or certifications or trainings required for this job?
So you have to pass. So once you pass law school, you obviously, you know, you need the diploma for that, but then you have to pass the bar exam. And so you cannot, so then you get a certificate for, you know, passing the bar exam. And there's also another portion you have to, there's 2 exams actually. There's the bar exam, and then there's a professional responsibility exam you have to pass. And then they do you have to apply for the bar. And so they do a thorough background check. You have to tell them basically like all about your life, every single traffic ticket you've gotten, you know, character and fitness is what they call. You have to pass that. And so the bar exam obviously is the biggest thing, and it's a very hard exam. Everyone studies at least a couple months for it. And so every state has its own bar exam, and it's a 2-day exam that you have to take. So
A 2-day exam. That sounds so like that sounds so like daunting, and it sounds like there's so much pressure. And so as I was reading more about becoming a lawyer and all the aspects of it before I had interviewed you, I saw that there's like a lot of skills needed to become a lawyer. So what do you think are the 3 most important skills needed for your job?
um, 3 most important skills: you have to have good writing skills. You know, that is just for me, especially like the job I do, I write a lot. And so I'm drafting motions and you know, various different pleadings. And so you have to really work on that skill and legal writing is really different from any other type of writing. You have to be clear in how you write and convincing. And so, yeah, again, it's a skill that you learn in law school. You learn legal writing, you take that class, and then you really have to work at it, and you get better and better as you do it more often. So legal writing is definitely a skill. The second one I would say is, you know, again, analytical skills. You have to be able to, a lot of what we do is like legal research and reviewing, like doing legal research one and then reviewing documents too. A lot of it involves like, you know, paying attention to detail, reviewing documents, again, paying attention to detail. So you really have to, I guess that would be the skill, I guess, is being detail oriented. And I know I said that before too. Did you ask me for 3 things?
Yeah, 3.
Oh, okay. And then again, depends on what type of lawyer you are, but like if you're a litigator, you have to have you have to be able to think on your feet and really hone your like arguing skills, like oral argument skills. And so I'll admit, like I get very nervous. Like public speaking is not my strong suit. But that's something I've like worked on a lot. Like, you know, in law school, in, you know, and I've done like court hearings like all throughout my career. I worked at the AG's office. I did lots of like hearings there, and then, you know, less so actually since I've been here. But I do a lot of like now, especially with COVID too, we do a lot of telephonic hearings. And actually, telephonic hearings I'm really good at because I'm not in front of people. So I'm less nervous. But that's again a skill you over time and practice with time practice. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So
Definitely. We're nearing the end now of this interview, and before we had talked about separating your work life from your personal life and how like becoming a lawyer has like a lot of work and stuff. So how could you describe to me a typical day in your job?
okay, so since I work from home actually most of the time, I'm like on my computer. I'm either drafting some sort of document, or I'm reviewing a document, or I'm doing legal research. There's a couple of legal research tools we use, like LexisNexis or Westlaw, that has like all of the case law like around the country. And so, you know, you're just reviewing case law all day. So most of the day I spend on the computer or on the phone with my colleagues or with clients or with a judge or with opposing counsel, or you know, answering emails, or I'm writing, or reading, and you know, reading a bunch of case law. That's, you know, pretty much what I do.
Yeah, not honestly, being a lawyer was on my list of jobs that I would want to look into and become. And I feel like it needs a lot of commitment, and you need to definitely have that mindset of like, if I'm going to do this, you're going to go full, you're going to go all the way, and you're going to try your best. And honestly, being a lawyer, it sounds really fun, and it's still going to be on my list. Thank you so much for doing this interview. And here is the last question. And for everybody who's watching, if you have not been paying attention, please make sure to pay attention because this is the most important question. And that is, what advice would you give to a high schooler who is trying to pursue this career?
My advice is to be open to, don't make your mind up in high school about what you want to be. You know, you're too young in high school to be like, this is what I'm going to be." I think, you know, allow yourself to take different classes in college, see what you're interested in, and then, you know, choose that path. I know, you know, you're supposed to decide on a major, um, but that first year of school, wherever you go, I would really, you know, take, you know, even if you, let's say, decide to be pre-med, start out as pre-med, but then you take a couple classes in, you know, the social sciences, and you realize, okay, I'm not really interested in that. Then, you know, pursue whatever you're interested in, but keep an open mind. If you, again, I think high school is a bit early to sort of decide that you want to go this path. You know, and I don't think you should be convinced by like TV shows, because they're not an accurate representation of like the real day-to-day life of a lawyer, which honestly is, can be tedious, and you know, and it can be like a little bit, you know, it's hard, it's not easy, and it's not exciting every day, you know. And so I don't think you should go based off of like TV shows or anything, or what you think, you know, being a lawyer is about. um, I would suggest, you know, perhaps, if you're able to at some point, like you did this interview, it's a good to hear from people, get other, you know, if you know of other attorneys, get their opinions and see, um, learn about like the different types of law. I do a certain type of law, I do a very specific type of law, other people do something very different from what I do, and no two attorneys kind of do the same thing. And so, um, hear from other people and then go from there. So.
Yeah. So I feel like you were talking about keeping an open mind. And so now I know what to do. I'm going to definitely look at my options more, what I want to be. Thank you so. I froze. Okay, wait. We're gonna wait until I come back. There you go. Okay, I'm going to be keeping an open mind about this, and it's definitely being a lawyer. Obviously, you have to do your research, and I'm still in high school, so it's not. I have like a long
A
time
lot
ahead of
of time.
me.
Yep.
But thank you so much for doing this interview.
You're welcome.
I hope all of the people watching got a lot of insight. Thank you so much for being here.